Oh, crap. It's one of those weeks. What's up, everybody? I am Taylor. It's the Cranky Comic Book Review Show. It is what? August 31st, the last day of August. We're almost into September. Oh, my birth month, where I'm going to get even goddamn older. Oh, time keeps on thrusting into the future. That's not right. Whatever. Anyways, before we begin, if you all get a chance, please go to the cbcawards.org. I'm going to leave a thingy here, thingy, and a link down below. Vote for your favorite comic book creators. It's an award show. It means a lot. I'm nominated for Best Comic Book Review Channel. This episode is not going to win me any awards, but if you like my stuff, you want to vote for me, that's cool. But just vote. Vote for whoever. Anyway, that's all. But now we're going to get into it. And this might be the worst week of comics I've had in about a year. And it's a thin week, so it'll be fast, at least for you and me and everybody. I don't know. Yeah, I bought these. My LCS gave me this stack because they were all kind of damaged. Like, you want some more to read? I'm like, why not? Because it's just such a slim week. And we're going to start with the worst and go to the best. And honestly, any of the freebies could probably make the worst of the list. They're not my bag, and they're not very good. I like this cover. This is Hell Cop number 10. I read the first 2 issues of Hell Cop and didn't hate it, but I think this took a really weird turn downhill. The art by, who the hell's the art by? Oh, okay. Brian Haberlin does the story art and color. So one person show doing all the heavy lifting. I kind of hate the art, and I kind of really hated the story. I've missed a lot. You kind of get thrown into the middle here. There's a Cheshire Cat. There's a Alice in Wonderland. Not that that's been done a billion times before, but like it, I don't know. It's just it was weird pacing in the story, weird jumping aroundy bits, and the art and the faces especially really bugged me. I don't think the visual storytelling is up to par for any kind of comic book here. There's a lot of insets and a lot of like how the hell do you read this and what order you're supposed to read it, and then a very abrupt ending that just was like, oh, okay, I guess we're done now. It was not for me. I kind of hated this one, but I kind of hated a lot of things this week. So like I said, cool cover. All right, next, let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, this might have been worse. Honestly, I can't. Whatever. Ravenloft number 3. I play Dungeons and Dragons. I like Dungeons and Dragons. I've read some Dungeons and Dragons comics. They're mostly harmless, and they're mostly kind of middle of the road. So I don't tend to pick them up. This one really annoyed me. It had 2 different sort of stories in here that I had trouble figuring out what the hell's going on in either half of it. Now I get this is issue number 3, so you're kind of thrusting in the middle of things, but there's still no way in if it's your first issue. The writing is just a mess, and then the lettering by Neil Uyetake is god awful. Honestly, it's hard as hell to read, and thankfully there's not a lot of lettering because it's a mostly visually told story. So that's a small thing, but then the art doesn't hold up either. It's like weird chibi style and pretty badly drawn faces and stuff. It's just not a good story. And like, how am I supposed to like what? There's no real visual clues as far as how the hell to read this kind of page. It's just not well done. And then the story itself, when it is happening, is just not very interesting. It doesn't feel like a good D&D kind of adventure romp. It doesn't feel like anything like that. It was a chore to get through this, and it was fast, but it was not a good book. So another one for the pile. Speaking of not a good book and another one for the pile. Look, I see my LCS, like, they're great. They give me books when they're damaged, and I want to read them, so I tried reading this one. This is Ant number 5, and it's, what's his nuts? Eric Larson doing all the heavy lifting. Other than whatever the hell flats are. I don't know, whatever. He's doing the story, the art, and the color. Different person on the lettering, but like the coloring, I don't know, it just seems phoned in. And so does the art, honestly. Like, I used to not hate Eric Larson's stuff, but honestly, everything in this is kind of just drawn with one line weight, and it's like seems like unfinished. And then you get the very basic but not very well done coloring in here. I would not have imagined that this is done by the guy that's got 30 some years of experience under his belt. The story It's a fluffy superhero story with cheesy ass dialogue, and some nonsensical bits in here. It's not offensively bad, but it's not good. It reeks of like '90s superhero shit, and there's also like a page turn kind of reveal that's like, oh, okay, I guess that just happened, and like there was no. I get why there's a page turn reveal. You want to surprise people. You know, you use the page as an element to surprise, and you use the turn, but there's no setup for it, and no logical way that the characters would not have seen what happened on the page reveal for it to be a surprise. And it is not a well done comic book at all. Like it's overly verbose. It's kind of shittily drawn. It's really annoyingly colored, and yeah, there's just times where like he'll draw something like this here and not add any coloring, so the characters seem to float even though they're on a yellow sidewalk. Just very odd color choices, very crappily, honestly, crappily drawn. And yeah, I don't know. Ugh. All right, next. I'm in the bad shit. That looks like number 1, right? Florida Man number 1. This is not issue number 1. So maybe this is a very rare error variant, or they're just fucking with you. But this is Florida Man issue number 2, written by Mike Barron, and it's barely a story. It's just sort of strung together based on, I guess, one character. There's a main character who's the through line through all this, and then it's just a series of Florida-like adventures. If you ever follow Florida Man Twitter or anything like that, it's sort of that. Like Florida Man does cocaine with an alligator and has sex with prostitutes and wakes up naked. It's a ridiculous tale. The biggest problem with this is A, it's not funny, and this kind of story you need it to be funny and over the top in order for it to work, and B, it's just not well paced, and like there's just things that happen and you're like, oh, okay, that happened, and then that didn't happen, and then that happened. It's not strung together in a very effective storytelling way. Like there's an event that happens like within the first 2 pages that should be enough for a whole issue and maybe several. Instead, it's done by page 4, and then page 4 happens, and then done by page 5. Like it's just breakneck, and then not in a good way. The pacing, and it's, I don't know. I get what Mike Barron, the writer's going for, and like just the sheer ridiculousness of these Florida events, and the fact that they all just do seem to keep happening in a fast succession. But it doesn't make for a fun comic, and it doesn't make for a good read. So this is also god awful. And yeah, that $1 US $3.90. I really don't understand what's going on with the cover, but whatever. This is issue number 2 apparently, because according to the indicia, Florida Man Volume 1, number 2, first printing. So I don't know. Skip all those. Honestly, you could probably skip everything this week and be just fine. Like I normally do a top 5 on my Substack. I probably am not going to this week. I might take Labor Day weekend off because I don't have enough good things to say about any of these 5 I actually paid for to really make for an effective top 5. It would be like 5 books I read this week that were better than those 4 I also read this week, but they're not good. First, we have Thunderbolts number 1, written by Jim Zub, art by Izaxi, whatever. Hawkeye leading the new Thunderbolts, set up by Luke Cage, not Luke Wilson, Luke Cage. New York after the events of Daredevil-y stuff. I don't know, man. I get why they're doing this. They're introducing Thunderbolts because there's going to be a Thunderbolts movie coming. And they wanted a fun new property. And there are fun enough ideas in this. But it's just kind of reeks of 90s superhero stuff. The art is uneven by... who's the hell is this? Sean Izaxi. It's all right. And the writing by Jim Zub. The humor is mostly pretty flat. It feels like it's ticking off on every kind of trope that you'd have with like a misfit superhero team. Like if you can imagine a misfit superhero team on their first adventure, that's probably what happens in this book. It's not awful. It's not great. It's middle of the road. There's a few things I kind of enjoyed in here, barely. So it's like if I were grading this, I'd probably give it a 4 or 5. I won't be keeping up with this one. This is not going to stay on my pull list. I just do not give a rat's ass. I'm not the target audience, I don't believe. But if you want lighthearted superhero fluff and you kind of miss the 90s where storytelling was just kind of like, meh, all right. Yeah, I guess. This is probably for you. It just wasn't for me. I kind of wanted a little more. I either wanted to be funny or more action packed or more something. It feels weirdly. Sorry, I'm dropping things and going off camera and not editing because that's how I roll. I don't know. It felt safe and stupid all at the same time. If that makes any kind of sense, probably not. But it's what you're getting out of me this week. All right, next we have the first of two Zach Kaplan books on here. Breakout number 3. And I got the mic and mic shadows. I'm just a hot mess this week, people. You ever have one of those weeks where you're like not really into it and you're like, it all kinds of feels like a chore to read and stuff, and you're like, I guess I probably should. I've got 4 people counting on me that watch this crap every week. That's kind of how I felt going into today. I really was not feeling like comic book review showness, and the universe provided by not giving me a lot of books, and the ones that they gave me are mostly shit. So like, bear with me. We'll get through this. Next week should hopefully be better. I hope, dear God, because maybe it's just my mood, but none of the books this week struck me as especially good. And this one too. I like the first 2 issues of Breakout well enough. It's like a sci-fi concept. Zach Kaplan does a lot of sci-fi writing, and there's these aliens that have captured kids, and the world mostly is okay with it because they don't know how to deal with it. So they're like, well, we're moving on. Not super realistic, but that is what it is. It's sci-fi, and then teenagers going to rescue their teenager friends, and this is the heisty issue where it all gets kind of explained through internal monologue, and then like every other heist book, it's not spoiling much, but like, well, shit goes wrong. The problem is, like, you don't get the setup to the heist well, and like the way the shit goes wrong, it's like, well, there's not an effective enough setup for that to actually make sense for you to care as a reader. It's just kind of and also the pacing. Like, is this the one? I think it is. The last page is just like, what in the goddamn hell? That's the end of this issue? It might be a different one. Oh, nope, okay, that's not. This one actually ends on a typical comic book ending. Sorry about that. I really just read these and I'm going through it. It's all right. It's fine. I probably will finish it just because I'm in 3 issues in. And I think it's over next issue, so I kind of want to know where it ends. Kinda, but I also not sure how much I give a shit, because like it just hasn't been that exciting. Like, if you're gonna have a big breakout heisty book where you're like fighting aliens against all odds, and you've got kids that don't know what they're up against and whatever, they shouldn't be super clever. They shouldn't have all this shit work out like it kind of does, and they also it should have this sense of scale that this doesn't really have, and the sense of excitement that this just doesn't have. It's falling flat, and this issue really fell flat for me. So I kind of want to see where it ends. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Next, another Zach Kaplan book. Yeah, I like this one better. Forever Forward number 1. Time travel. And yeah, I don't want to spoil this a whole lot. It's a Scout Comics. I love the cover. And I also love the cover, the beat cover of this. I like this one better than Breakout, but it's also... Is this the one that has a really weird ending? Yeah, I really thought there was more to this book, but it just ends. It's got a bizarre last page where you're like, what? And it's not even a thing at the end saying continue next issue or anything. It's just kind of like, oh, I guess we're done. I guess this issue's over. It's really bizarre in how it ends. It's a time travel book. Without spoiling a whole lot, like time travel where people can travel forward in time. It's a pretty tropey way that like it gets set up, and it's mostly an angsty character that has to work all the time. So, like, you don't even get the time travel excitement in this first issue. Like, you probably could have skipped all that and like kind of gotten back to it. If you ever read Black Science, that one is another like kind of sort of similar idea, and that one's done a lot better. It's a lot more action oriented and a lot more like bam, bam, bam. What the hell? Here you get some what the hell. You also get the what the hell. Like, what the hell? Why? I don't care about that part of it all. The art's okay by Susini, and yeah, the story's okay. It's all right. But since it's issue number 1 and it didn't give me enough to hook me, and it has a really bizarre ending, I'm not getting any more. I'm done with this. I don't care enough. So, and what do we have next? Oh yeah, Jesus. All right. Jessica Jones, the variants number 3. Another weird issue. I liked issue number 2 fairly well. This one is a down, like sort of explains a little bit what's going on, kinda ish, not really. Jessica Jones, bunch of variants. Purple Man might have set a time bomb in her head. Part of the issue, like Phil Nota's art, just always kind of drives me as nuts. But like, just on this page, without spoiling much, She-Hulk is bigger, obviously, but this little purple girl here and Jessica Jones are supposed to be the same size. And like that's clearly not the case in this panel. But then you get to the next page, and it's the next page where they, yeah, like you get to this next page here, and like this person's taller than Jessica Jones. It's a very, I don't know, like it seems like I needed an editor. This book actually I think needed an editor to go through it again for all of it, because there's unclear story bits. There's things that happened last issue that get explained in this issue, but the explanation's not really sufficient because of the way it happened last issue. So you're like, what? That, huh? Okay. Like it's sort of like Gail Simone's trying to pull a fast one on the reader, and it's not in a fun way. It's sort of like, well, that doesn't make sense because of how it read last issue way. And so yeah, there's all these variants, and they're supposed to try and figure out whether or not the Purple Man's going to do Purple Man evilly things. And they kind of don't in this one. There's a lot of coffee drinking, and there's a lot of other stuff, but it's also mostly a talky issue, which is okay, I guess. It's another one I'm torn. Like, I think we have like one more issue left, maybe 2, and I kind of like, kind of want to see how it ends, but I also kind of don't give a shit. So, kind of don't give a shit. I think this one I'm kind of done with, honestly. Like, I like Jessica Jones as a character. I liked her show well enough on Netflix, and even I liked Alias when I read it back in the day. Bendis, it's very, Bendis, he gets a little dialogue-y and stuff, but I just, yeah, I think I'm done. This is fine, but I just don't care. There's not enough in here for me to give a shit on, honestly, almost anything this week. Even the best book of the week, which is this last one after this. I just am like, yeah. So, yeah, here you go. Last book of the week. Sandman Presents Nightmare Country number 6. I really liked the issue before. Kind of like the variants, except for I liked issue number 4 of this a lot. It kind of nailed all the Sandman gothy moodiness and like the creepiness of the that Neil Gaiman's book could get at times. And this is James Tynion writing, with Esteron on the art mostly, and the art by Esteron's okay. Sparse line work and inky, and somebody else said they thought it felt rushed. I don't think it feels rushed. I think it feels unclear in places, and that's kind of awful. But I don't think it was rushed. The fill-in artist by Aaron Campbell. I kind of wish Aaron Campbell was doing the whole series because I like that fill-in a lot better. And I think that's the first time Aaron Campbell's been doing a fill-in on this series. There are moments, like when Estron's going and gets the creepiness right, you can really get it. It's just this issue took a tone shift and took a plot shift. Like, it shifted tonally and plot-wise a lot from the previous 4. And I guess that's a reason for the plot. And, it is pushing things forward. But it also, I don't know, it's not great. It's okay. It's sort of like a middle of the road, someone else writing Sandman now, and that's kind of what this feels like. Instead of what felt like a kind of a creepy horror book that was kind of its own thing, now it kind of feels like, okay, they're definitely playing around in the Sandman universe, and Tynion's doing an okay job of it. But I'd rather just read a Sandman book at this point. So it's fine. This one's 5 of 8. This I probably will finish because I'm a sucker for Sandman. Like, the original book was one of my favorite comics of all time, and this not. I mean, this issue really was not it for me. I'm hoping it picks up next issue. You get the Corinthian in it. It's not a spoiler. He's on the goddamn cover, and so I like the Corinthian as a character too. Although I don't love the characterization in this. There's a reason they explain away why the characterization is what it is. I still don't dig it, and this is the explainy issue. And if the explain issues are done well, they can be great. But this is not great. You get the exposition dump in a way that makes sense for the story, I guess. But like the logic behind it, I'm like, oh, that's it. All right, so it's fine. It's the best of this week's shit. But this was a crap week for books. Honestly, it really was. I was going to probably pick up Amazing Fantasy at 1,000, but my LCS just didn't get any. They might have it next week, so maybe I'll get it. We'll see. I am also really, really, really fucking sick of Marvel's money grabs with this kind of shit, where they have an anthology book full of mediocre stories in there, and they charge you $9 for it because it's some like arbitrary anniversary of a character. I don't fucking really care about that, so there's a chance I might skip that. And I was also probably gonna pick up the Superman, whatever called War World Ending, Dark Side, Your Mom, whatever. But they also didn't have any of that in this week either. That was on the fence for me anyways because I'd not read any of the previous Phil Kennedy Johnson Superman stuff. I've heard it's good, but I might read it digitally and catch up on it. I know a lot of other people really like it, and I maybe should give it a chance. But it's one of those weeks where you just don't give a shit. And so everyone has those weeks where you just don't give a shit. It's okay not to give a shit, I think. So I just didn't give a shit. And nothing in this pile of crap made me change my mind and think, oh, I'm really glad. I'm glad I dug in and I was like, oh yeah, this is why I read comics. This is why. This is it, people. No, this is not it. This is the trudge along, and this is comics at their most mediocre, which is the frustrating part about it, this kind of medium, where people are churning out monthly books and they're just doing this stuff. Sometimes you're gonna have weeks where you're like, well, that was a book, I guess. And so here you go. That was the Cranky Comic Book Review Show, I guess. Don't be a dick, even if your heart's not in it. See ya.